friends, today in this video we are going to talk about the angular simple harmonic motion and its differential equation. Also we will be talking about what the damping of oscillation means, and we will try to have the basic idea about what are free vibrations, force vibrations, and what is the meaning of resonance. Till now, we have the idea about simple harmonic motion, and we have discussed that simple harmonic motion is a special case of oscillatory motion in which the force acting or the restoring force is directly proportional to the displacement, but it is oppositely directed. That is, we write this as F proportional to minus x. Okay. Now when we have to talk about angular SHM, remember that angular simple harmonic motion is defined as the oscillatory motion of a body in which the torque for the angular acceleration is directly proportional to angular displacement, and its direction is opposite to that of angular displacement. Now if you think about this definition of angular SHM a little wisely or little more concentration, if you give on this definition, you will get the idea that for angular SHM to occur or to happen, we need the torque that has to be acting on the system, and the object or the whole system has to show the angular displacement. So the necessary condition for angular SHM, we can say that the restoring torque acting should be directly proportional to the angular displacement, and the direction of this torque should be opposite to that of the angular displacement. Now let us try to understand this angular SHM more clearly with the help of the diagram, and also let us try to get the idea about how we can derive the differential equation for angular SHM. Now if you refer to the diagram shows a metallic disc which is attached centrally to a thin wire which is hanging from the rigid support. Okay. Now if you give a slight twist to this particular disc about the axis along the wire, and then if you release, then the motion performed by the disc will be the rotational motion, which is partly clockwise and partly anti-clockwise. That is, it will be in the opposite sense. Now such oscillations are called as angular oscillations, or they are also called as torsional oscillations. Now this particular motion, that is the angular oscillatory motion, is governed by the restoring torque in the wire, and as I said earlier that this restoring torque will always be opposite to the angular displacement. Now if the magnitude of this particular angular SHM, it happens to be proportional to the corresponding angular displacement, then we call the motion to be angular simple harmonic motion. Okay. So as I said, for angular SHM of a body, the restoring torque should be acted upon on the system, and the angular displacement and the restoring torque, they should be opposite to each other. So mathematically we can express angular SHM as tau proportional to minus theta. So this is nothing but, tau is nothing but the torque, and this is theta is angular displacement. So torque proportional to angular displacement, but as the negative sign indicates that they are oppositely directed to each other. If you replace this proportionality sign with a constant c, you can write the same equation as tau is equal to minus c into theta, and this sign is called as constant of proportionality. That is, c is called as constant of proportionality, which is the restoring torque per unit angular displacement. Okay. Now from the rotational motion, we know that if you consider I as the moment of inertia of the body, then the torque acting on the body will be given by torque is equal to I alpha, where I is moment of inertia and alpha is angular acceleration. So from this relation, as we know that torque is equal to I alpha, and just now when we were discussing about angular simple harmonic motion, we derived the equation as torque is equal to minus c into theta. We can just equate these equations. So we can write I alpha is equal to minus c into theta. Now as I said, what is alpha? Alpha is angular acceleration. So this is as good as writing alpha in terms of angular displacement as d2 theta upon dt square. So we can write the equation as I into d2 theta upon dt square. You shift this minus c theta to the other side, so you get plus c theta equal to 0. So by rearranging the terms and substituting the value of alpha, how we wrote the equation? I d square theta upon dt square plus c theta equals to 0, and this is nothing but the differential equation for angular simple harmonic motion. From this equation, we can write the angular acceleration alpha as c theta with a negative sign. So minus c theta upon I is nothing but the angular acceleration. Now in this equation also, as c is constant and also I, that is moment of inertia, is constant, the angular acceleration alpha is directly proportional to the angular displacement, that is theta. And if you just check the presence of negative sign in the equation, it indicates that the direction is opposite to that of the angular displacement. So this goes in accordance with the definition of SHM, and hence this particular motion is also called as angular simple harmonic motion. Okay, so if you try to talk about the time period for angular SHM, then time period is also given as t is equal to 2 pi upon omega, that is 2 pi upon square root of angular acceleration per unit displacement. Okay, now we are going to talk about the motion of a magnet in a uniform magnetic field. Okay, now if a bar magnet is freely suspended in a plane of uniform magnetic field, then it remains in equilibrium with its axis parallel to the direction of the field. If this bar magnet is given a very small angular displacement, then this particular bar magnet will keep on rotating about an axis which is passing through the center and is perpendicular to itself, and then it performs angular oscillation or angular SHM. Now this diagram shows that you have a bar magnet which is kept in uniform magnetic field, which is shown by B. Okay, so 2L is the length of the magnet, and the magnet is kept in a magnetic field with angle theta. Okay, now here we are going to consider that mu is the magnetic dipole moment. Now we are already aware the meaning of magnetic dipole moment. Okay, so we are considering that mu is the magnetic dipole moment and B is the magnetic field. Now in deflected position, that is when you are going to rotate the magnet through some small angle theta, then in that deflected position a restoring torque will be acting on the magnet, and this restoring torque will try to get the magnet back to its equilibrium position. Okay, Now how we calculate the torque, we are very well aware that we torque or we calculate the torque as product of one of the forces into the perpendicular distance of separation from the point of application of force. So if we try to do that, here this particular point, which is a north pole of a magnet, it will have pole strength as capital M, okay, and this is going to have minus M. The strengths are same but with negative sign. So force acting on this particular side will be given by Qm into B, and force acting on the other end will be same in magnitude but with a negative sign, so minus Qm into B. And what will be the perpendicular distance? This will be nothing but the perpendicular distance between them. If you talk about calculating the perpendicular distance, if I label this point as P and consider angle NPS as a right angle triangle and try to calculate the value of this particular sine theta in terms of trigonometric ratio, then sine theta, if this angle is theta, this is also going to be theta, right? Then sine theta is opposite upon hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is nothing but 2L. So we can write torque as torque is equal to mu into B into sine theta. Now if this deflection given to the small bar magnet or small magnet in the magnetic field is very small, as I said, as per the trigonometric relations, if this theta is small, sine theta is also very small, so sine theta will be almost equal to theta, and hence we can write torque is equal to mu into B into theta. Also, as I said, from rotational dynamics we know that torque is equal to I alpha. So if we equate the values or equations for torque, we can write torque, that is I alpha, is equal to minus mu into B into theta, where I is your moment of inertia and alpha is the angular acceleration. If we rearrange the terms, we can get the value for alpha as minus mu B upon I into theta. Okay, so here if you again look at the terms involved in the equation, mu, we have considered it as magnetic dipole moment of the bar magnet, which is going to be constant. Capital B is the magnetic field, which is uniform, it's not changing, means it is constant. I is moment of inertia, that is also constant. So what is the changing factor here in the equation? The changing factor is only theta, that is angle through which the bar magnet can be displaced. So you can say that if mu, B and I, these are the constants, then we can say that the angular acceleration, that is alpha, is directly proportional to angular displacement. And the presence of negative sign over here, it indicates that they are directed opposite to each other, and because of that we can say that the bar magnet placed in uniform magnetic field, it performs the angular simple harmonic motion. So if you want to calculate the time period for the bar magnet which is performing angular SHM, the formula remains same. Time period is equal to 2 pi upon square root of angular acceleration per unit angular displacement. So you substitute the value of that. Angular acceleration per unit angular displacement is nothing but alpha upon theta, and alpha upon theta will what? It will be minus mu B upon I. If we talk in terms of only magnitude, then alpha upon theta will be mu B upon I. If we substitute these values of alpha upon theta, we get time period as 2 pi under root I upon mu into B. So this equation gives us time period of a magnet which is kept in uniform magnetic field. So we can say that this time period is directly proportional to square root of moment of inertia. It is inversely proportional to square root of the magnetic field, and also it is inversely proportional to square root of the magnetic dipole moment, because 2 pi here in this equation is constant. Okay, now once we have taken a clear cut idea about what the linear simple harmonic motion and what is angular simple harmonic motion, and we also discussed about simple pendulum, the next article that we are going to discuss or we are going to talk about is the damping of the oscillations or the damped oscillations. Now let us try to get the idea about what do we actually mean by damping of oscillations. Now remember, if the amplitude of the oscillation is reduced by application of an external force, then the oscillator and its motion are said to be damped, or the oscillations are said to be damped oscillations. Now just to make it very clear, if you set a simple pendulum in, if you have a simple pendulum and if you try to displace that simple pendulum from its mean position by giving certain amount of displacement, that is certain amount of restoring torque is applied on it, and if you release the simple pendulum, then if you don't disturb the system and if you look at the whole system after say 4 or 5 minutes, you will observe that the bob of the simple pendulum, which was performing motion initially, slowly after certain time interval, it has come back to the rest position. So what it indicates, that the amplitude of the oscillation gradually goes on decreasing. As the time period increases, the amplitude goes on decreasing, and at one particular point the amplitude becomes 0 and the bob comes back to the normal or rest or mean position. Now such motion of the pendulum or such motion of the oscillator is called as damped motion, or that is called as damping of the oscillation. So periodic oscillations of gradually decreasing amplitude are called as damped harmonic oscillations, and the oscillator is called as damped harmonic oscillator. Now why this damping of oscillation in case of simple pendulum takes place? It's very easy and simple to understand, that the when bob of the simple pendulum is performing the motion, at each and every time the bob of the pendulum, it has to perform work to overcome the viscous drag offered by the air. So every time some amount of the energy is reduced, it is lost in overcoming the viscous drag, and because the energy goes on decreasing at each and every point, the amplitude also goes on decreasing, and at one particular point the bob comes back to the rest position. Now the question arises that if we don't want to have the damped oscillations, what we need to do? We need to keep on giving the energy to the oscillator externally, so that whatever amount of energy is lost in overcoming the viscous drag, that amount of energy, if we give it externally to the bob or to the oscillator, it will remain performing the motion with the same amplitude. The amplitude will not go on decreasing. Okay, but here we need to understand the damping of the oscillations. I hope what is the meaning of the damped oscillator is clear to you. So let us try to have the more clear cut idea about the damped oscillations. Now this figure, it shows you the whole system or the whole arrangement that we are going to consider for studying the damping of oscillation. It shows a block of mass m that can oscillate vertically on a spring. Okay, and from the block there is a rod which is extended to vane, and it is submerged in a liquid. Now as this vane is going to move in upward and downward direction, this liquid will exert a viscous drag, and thus the complete oscillating system will also experience this viscous drag. Now the mechanical energy of this spring block system, it is going to decrease with time as the energy is transferred to thermal energy of the liquid and the vane. Okay, so this damping force, it actually depends on the nature of the surrounding medium, and this damping force is directly proportional to the speed, that is V. Now here in this case we can write this damping force Fd as minus Bv, where this B we have used is nothing but the damping constant, and the negative sign in the equation, it indicates that this damping force opposes the velocity. Okay, now for the spring constant, which is K, the force on the block from this spring, it will be given by the equation that we have used for explaining the SHM, that force will be given by minus Kx. Now if we assume that the gravitational force acting on the block is negligible as compared to the damping force and the spring force, then the total forces acting on the mass of block at any particular time interval, it will be given by F is equal to Fd plus Fs. Now force is nothing but mass into acceleration, and we have the values of Fd as minus Bv and Fs, that is spring force, as minus Kx. So you take all the terms to one particular side, and we can write Ma is equal to Bv, Ma is equal to minus Bv minus Kx, and if you shift the terms, you can write Ma plus Bv plus Kx is equal to 0. So here now acceleration is what, if you have to write it in terms of displacement, then we can write acceleration as m d2x upon dt square plus b into v is velocity. Velocity in terms of displacement is rate of change of displacement, so it is dx upon dt, and the last term kx remains as it is. So m d2x upon dt square plus b into dx upon dt plus kx equal to 0. It describes or it gives the differential equation for damped oscillations. Okay, and it indicates that the damping force is proportional to the speed with which the block is going to move. Okay, so this completes with the damping of the oscillations, and as I said, next we are going to discuss about the free oscillations, the forced oscillations, and resonance. Okay, now this is very simple to understand. Let us first talk about free oscillations. Now when any object is allowed to vibrate or to oscillate on its own, then that particular vibration of the object or those particular oscillations of the object, you are going to label them or you are going to call them as free oscillations. Now in case of free oscillations, remember the object is going to vibrate with its natural frequency. Just to give you an example, if you take the bob of a simple pendulum and you displace it through some particular angle and release, and then you don't disturb the system, then the bob is going to oscillate only with its natural frequency, and the oscillations are said to be natural or free oscillations. But however, if you apply some external periodic force on the same pendulum and try to set that pendulum into vibration, then the pendulum will oscillate or the pendulum will vibrate, but the frequency of the pendulum will not be its natural frequency. The bob or the object will be vibrating with a frequency which is given by the external periodic force. Then such vibrations are known as forced vibrations. So let me again try to sum up with free vibrations and forced vibration. When the body which is capable of oscillating is displaced from equilibrium position and released, and if the object or the body is making vibrations with its own natural frequency, then they are called as free vibrations. Remember, in case of free vibration, external periodic force do not play any role in that. But when you talk about forced vibrations, the vibrations of a body under action of external periodic force, in which body vibrates with frequency which is equal to the external periodic force frequency, that is the driving frequency, then that particular vibration is called as forced vibration. So in case of forced vibration, the object is actually forced or compelled to vibrate with the desired frequency, which might not be equal to the natural frequency, or many a times it is not equal to the natural frequency of the object. Now in case of forced vibration, the amplitude of the forced vibration, it depends upon the difference between the frequency of the external periodic force and the natural frequency of vibration, and it also depends upon the amplitude of the applied force, that is with which we want the object to vibrate, and also the damping force. Okay, so that is what the forced vibrations are. Now when we are going to talk about resonance, remember resonance is a special case of forced vibration. What if we are aware that in forced vibrations, the difference between the frequency of driving periodic force and the natural frequency of the driven body, it decreases, the amplitude of vibration of the body increases. Now when the difference between frequency of applied periodic force and natural frequency becomes zero, that is the frequency of external periodic force and natural frequency of the body are exactly equal, then amplitude of vibration, it becomes maximum, and then in that case we say that the body is set into resonance. So we can say that resonance is a special case of forced vibrations, and it is a phenomenon in which the body vibrates under the action of external periodic force whose frequency is equal to the natural frequency of the driven object, so that the amplitude becomes maximum. And in that particular case, when the amplitude becomes maximum, you call that as the resonance. Okay, so this is about free oscillations, force oscillations and resonance, and this completes with your chapter of oscillations. Okay, thank you.